Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Laura Niemi about a bunch of her exciting projects. FX is the Patient, Stranger Things Volume 1, which was dropped on Netflix. She was also This Is Us. So many things to talk about. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's pretty interesting, especially with this one. I mean, This Is Us is a project you did. Stranger Things comes out today. You have The Patient coming out at one point. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a pretty exciting time for you to do like interviews, right? Because it's like you're not sure. There's so much to talk about, basically.
There's so much to talk about, and it's just such a, oh my God, and they're all so delicious. They're all so extraordinary in their own special way.
It's interesting to see, a lot of them kind of like, especially like This Is Us and Stranger Things, more Stranger Things, obviously, but a lot of like genres are kind of being blended and bended these days, Laura. I don't think we're kind of staying to one kind of genre. What do you kind of think about that landscape as a storyteller of kind of throwing a lot of genres in there?
It's interesting because years ago I did this comedy horror film called Chastity Bites.
Mhm.
And I remember at the time it was like, what do you mean comedy horror? And it was like, well, it just worked. It's just a beautiful script and a beautiful cast, and it put a lot of people on the map in terms of actors that were just starting out. And it's I love it. I mean, I love it. I love any kind of storytelling that isn't of the norm,
Yeah, and it's really cool to kind of see, so the wait is finally over. People are finally able to see Volume 1 of Stranger Things Season 4 on Netflix. I can't believe it.
I can't believe it either.
I'm going to say something right now. It's a very bold statement. And I did a radio spot a couple of hours ago, and I said this too. I think Stranger Things is the greatest show ever created.
Yeah. Well, it definitely...
Well, it's up there, at least. Arguably one of the, yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. And also, I mean, Netflix, hello.
Yeah.
It's like Netflix before Stranger Things and Netflix after Stranger Things, for sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty special.
It is pretty special. But that is like the genre bending show of all genres. Like, I feel like every 2 minutes of that show is a different genre sometimes.
I know. And as an actor, it's even more of a little bit of a challenge because you're like, okay, I fit in this piece of the puzzle, but there's a tongue-in-cheekness about it. But there's also, a straightforward, sci-fi element to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's exactly what you just said. It becomes like, okay, where do I fit in this puzzle? And how do I make sure that I'm staying in the tone?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to keep in mind spoilers, but it is out. So we could talk about stuff. We're going to talk about it because I want to talk about it. You want to talk about it. So you are part of the California 11 storyline.
Yes, exactly.
So if you want to talk a little bit about your experiences, your character.
I make a little cameo in it. And I have to say, I haven't seen, they don't give you the whole script of where you fit in the season and whatnot. I only knew that it was it was going to probably be in the premiere of season 4. So, they don't release the scripts. They don't release the scripts. They just release the scenes. As an actor, it's like, okay, I'm going to probably be in this, and this is where it's probably taking a direction.
But did you know it was like at the school and the teacher? Did you know that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Of course I knew that. Okay. But what's really cool is Duffer Brothers it's so interesting working with different directors and how they work. They are really, they are freeform, man. They are just like, they're like jazz. They kind of have an idea and they shoot this scene, but then they kind of, another idea kind of forms for another scene that they're going to be shooting, like let's say in the hallway of the school, and they kind of stop the scene that they're working on to go in that, go back to that scene to kind of finish that up. And so it's quite extraordinary that because usually, when you're doing television, you do the scene, you finish that scene.
Yeah.
And so my experience working with them was kind of fascinating to watch. They're just they're just moving in different directions, and they kind of know, they can keep in their brain all these things that are happening that they want to add to it as a scene's coming to life. Something else triggers them to go back to another scene to work that. So they're always expanding on the story, and I just think that's
for your scenes with Noah and Millie and everyone. Did it, like, when you were but just tell me a little bit. I'm just curious because the behind the scenes, but like, did it feel like kind of getting ready for school, being in the classroom? Like, what did it feel like preparing for those scenes?
Yes, well, we were in the pandemic, so we were still, we still had to, maneuver through that.
Yeah.
And, so everybody was kind of, had their holding areas, I was with the cast and whatnot, and we were kind of hanging out in a classroom. But yeah, this school, we were on a time crunch because the school was going to open back up, the following week. So we had to get everything shot at we had a deadline because school was going to be opening. And at one point there was a thunderstorm, because in New Mexico that kind of happens, right? The weather's funky. And so we lost electricity, and then we had to shut it down. We had to do that a couple times. It was quite dramatic working that week, and the different things. And then one day it was hot. It was so hot, the weather was just all over the place.
Oh, absolutely.
But, and everybody's out there on the exterior of the courtyard in the school, with all these extras and
a lot of extras, I bet, like a lot.
Yeah, a lot of extras. It was so cool watching them all in, in 80s garb, and it was really cool. I mean, for me, because I grew up in the 80s.
Well,
so
I mean, I don't
like,
feel,
oh my God, I wore that. I wore that.
I don't feel like I'm spoiling this for you, Laura, because you did you did do the scene, so you know what I'm talking. Like, you read the line, so I know you haven't seen it yet, but I have a question to ask you about your character and everything. I mean, is it kind of cool to play like a blurry character where you're not sure if she's like a mean teacher or just kind of like that's a blur? It kind of like, I was confused. I was like, is she a mean teacher or is she just exactly. That's interesting, right?
Yeah, for sure. And that I wanted to make sure that the Duffer Brothers let me kind of do both.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Because I think in my perfect world, I come back.
Yeah.
And I advocate for 11, and I'm part of
that kind of storyline and everything. Absolutely.
Yeah. I would love that. I mean, what a dream to work on that show.
I mean, you worked on, we just said in the top of the interview, you worked on arguably one of the greatest shows on the planet, which is crazy.
And This Is Us. Oh my God.
Well, that's what I was going to talk about right now. So This Is Us. First thing I think of when I think about that show is obviously family. That's the first thing that comes to mind. So what's that like, that you got to work on a show where like family has always been the focal point, whether it was episode 1, episode 200, like it's always the focal point. What's that like for you, being on a show about family specifically?
Oh, it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, just beautiful. And it's, I mean, so many great things. Like in a lot of ways, Dan took a chance on me and put me on the map. It was like before that, I was kind of a gun for hire. There's ebb and flows in an actor's career, right? Yeah. But I've been doing it for a minute, and it kind of was like the thing that kind of put me on the map a little bit, and it's a show that my family, everybody in my family watches.
Yep.
So that's so exciting to be on a show that everybody watches, that have the most extraordinary fan base that it's just all love coming at you.
Yeah.
And that the cast and crew are just, I mean, I can't imagine what, I know Milo said, but Mandy and Milo and Sterling and, Chrissy and all the players that were the series regulars on that show. I can't imagine the emotions going on with them right now, because it's a once in a lifetime gig. That's absolutely. A once in a lifetime gig to be on something that celebrated and that beloved.
the first episode of that show, like the pilot episode of This Is Us, just how they tie it all in, is like one of the greatest things. Like, I don't think I'll ever forget the first episode of This Is Us. Like this, and we're going back, right? A couple of years now. It's been on for quite some time, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think I'll ever forget that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. In what aspect? What do you mean?
Just how you find out at the end that they're all like, that they're a family, how they show everything. You know what I mean?
Right. You get on board with the formatting.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Because you're kind of watching this and you kind of know what's happening, and then it shows the babies and it's like, oh my goodness, this is what's happening right now.
Yeah, and I feel like it's the first of its kind, you know, because after that, you saw a lot of shows kind of start doing that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And it's that kind of sliding doors aspect is always so fascinating to me. If you go down this road, what do you get? And what happens if you go down this road? You know, and it just storylines that are in tandem that keep going back and reflect in flashback. I love that. It's so interesting, and I love that we get that Dan allowed my character this past season to be a little fleshed out, because I, as a admirer and watcher of the show, that's always something that I was always interested in. Yeah, the parents and Jack's parents and how people become who they are. That's always such a fascinating thing. So
absolutely, yeah, the origins and everything, absolutely. And before we wrap up quickly, a project that's not out right now that you worked on, the Patient on FX.
Yes,
Steve Carell. What can you tell us about that? Is there anything you can even say?
Well, I can say it's something you've never seen before. It's not what you expect. I mean, it's Steve Carell. Of course, everybody just expects a comedy, but obviously knowing that it's on FX.
And he'll do the odd non-comedy sometimes, and you're just like, whoa.
No, it is very dark. It is very, very dark. And it is just extraordinary. It's extraordinary. It is some of the best writing that I've ever read. It's, it's from the same writers as The Americans.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's just incredible. And so I'm really excited for people to see this. It comes out at the end of August.
Yeah.
Because, look, I love dark sensibility. I have a dark sensibility. So I love those kind of shows. I love FX. I love, the HBO dark shows, but this is going to be really interesting to see how people feel about this one. You know, I happen to think it's some of Steve Carell's best work.
Wow.
I just got to, watch him do his thing, and he's just, I love him in dramas. I do. I really do. Is that crazy?
No, it's not. I was about to say, like,
I love him in dramas. I mean, I know he's a big comedy guy, but I told him I just love you in this genre. It's so wonderful. You're so talented.
I can't wait. You just made me so excited to see that in August when it comes out. But that is amazing. But you know what? It's funny because we're 2 for 3. 2 of the projects that we're talking about, people can watch right now that you're in, but then. Not that one. So we're 2 to 3.
No, and
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm really excited for people to see this. And this is a character I haven't played before, and it's a character that's most like myself.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I got to play music, which is something that's in my background. So far it's been the closest character that it is like myself, and so
absolutely.
That's kind of interesting too, to be able to play something so close to you.
100%, absolutely, no, for sure. And Laura, thank you so much for coming on Popternative. It was so great chatting with you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for having me, and have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Stranger Things Volume 1 is available now. They can check that out as well. And for season 4. And where can people follow you on social media to keep up to date with everything? Instagram?
I'm active on Instagram. That's it. I kind of just do Instagram.
Absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, it's Laura, Niemi, and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.